As quick as it's worked today. So this is the NWC Show, episode 29, and if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hello, I am the dynamite Brodie Adler. I am a Scottish wrestler at Source Wrestling School in Glasgow.
That's probably the better intro we've had, because most people just stumble at that and they're like, hello. So
totally tracking if everyone else is taking note.
So the first question we always ask everybody is to kind of kick it off is, what got you into wrestling? What was like that moment that you seen it, that you were just like, I need to get into this, I need to do this?
So I've been asked this a couple of times, and it only dawned on me recently that I've been totally lying. I didn't actually get into wrestling until about kind of 2010, 2011. So I was I was aged at that time. But I always say, like, it had never crossed my path before that, which I must have blocked out the memories because it was a total lie. My first kind of memory of wrestling was my family used to go to this camp down in Kent, and I remember one time it was like one of those silly camps that you go along and you're a kid and you dance and play all the games and agadoo and all that. And one day I went into the wee club bit and I noticed that the dance floor was taken up by this big, huge, like what I thought was a boxing ring. And it's like, where am I supposed to dance with the dinosaur? This isn't fair. So I was a bit gutted, and then ended up, it was a wrestling show. But my main memory of it is standing kind of front row, just like that. It was so, like, the noise of the canvas was so loud, and I was a bit of a baby when I was away, and I still am a bit now. Like, I don't like loud noises, and I didn't like loud noises, so I was standing with my hands over my ears. And then there's a picture which I am trying so hard to get a hold of, and I can't seem to. And it's of me and my big sister standing with a picture with one of the wrestlers, who's actually my uncle. So my uncle was a wrestler, and he's called the Hell's Angel. So I'm assuming you'll know what his gimmick was. Other than that, I remember like going out to my pals when I was younger, and he was watching wrestling, and I wanted to go out and play. He was like, "Oh no, look at this guy! He's called The Rock." I'm like, I don't care. Can we go out on our bikes or not? And he put it on, and I was like, I don't care about this. Can we please go out and play? The woods are free. Like, let's go. But yeah, it wasn't until I was about what age was I? Maybe about 19, 20. I was staying over at my house, and he put on Raw. And I was like, what is this? Are you actually watching wrestling? Not even knowing what it was, just going off everybody else's attitude around me, like, watching wrestling, are we? And I loved it. And the first thing I remember seeing is this big, flaming ginger Irish dude coming out who was whiter than a bottle of milk. And I was like, he is so cool because everybody hates him. And obviously it was Sheamus. Mm-hmm. And I just get so into it from there. I think it was maybe like 2 or 3 months later, he asked me if I wanted to go to a show with him because his band was playing at it, and it was in Maryhill. And I'm assuming what you'll know what the shows are in Maryhill. Yeah. I think it was ICW, like, oh my goodness, it was something, Suicide something 2. And it was in April. I think it was on like April 10th in 2010 or something, and it was absolutely mad. And my first question was like, can you drink at it? Like, bring your own booze. Like, oh, brilliant. I'm totally there, man. This will be good. And we brought our booze, and not proud of how the night ended for me. Like, I was the worst crowd member in the world. I was just heckling people and shouting at the poor lassies and just being so horrible. And now that I know some of them, I'm like, I really want to apologise to you because I didn't know the etiquette, I suppose, and I was a bit of a bitch, and that was my kind of first brush with wrestling. But yeah, I started training with Source in 2019. 2015 I started training with Source, and it was purely just because my pal was like, I go to this wrestling school, do you want to come? Like, no, I don't want to wrestle. I don't want to get hurt. Like, oh, just moan. And he hassled me for weeks. It's like, fine, I'll go to one of your classes. And I just absolutely fell in love with it. But I started going in like the February until September, and I was absolutely shocking. I was so terrible. I couldn't tell my left from my right. I couldn't even like lock up or anything. I was really, really bad. And then luck would have it, an injury in work in September took me out, and I couldn't do anything. And then I didn't go back until the women's classes were launched in the June next year. And then I went for there. I could headlock that time, so I was quite happy.
There'll be so many people listening to this that'll be like, you turned down watching like the Attitude Era, because we're similar ages, so you turned down watching that kind of period of like the Attitude Era, the Ruthless Aggression stuff, and you didn't get into like 2010 when people would be like, that's when it's starting to like fall away. But
all the time. Do you have any idea how much you've missed? It's like, yeah, I do.
and be like, that's why the network's there. I can go back and watch it and be like, oh, that's when I was wanting to go outside. I wasn't interested in it then. But for me, I was much younger now, and I was like 13 when I started wrestling training, maybe even 12. So I just remember turning up to the place in Linwood that everybody knows the story, and it was just like, make me run a garage in the middle of nowhere. And see, when I try to explain to an American what Linwood looks like, I'm like, it's like high-rise flats, industrial estate, nothing else. Like, it's literally like nothing there. I always remember just getting off the bus and being like, am I in the right place? Where's like a gym? There's no signs or anything.
This is another one of those brush with wrestling moments. I used to hang about in Linwood with a few guys who I met through this music school, and one of the nights I was up, they were like, oh, we're going to go to wrestling training. Like, right, what am I supposed to do? I've come all the way from Erskine, by the way, to Linwood. It's like, what am I supposed to do? It's like, just come along, it'll be great. And we went into this wee garage, from what I remember, and it was just like a ring and some blue mats, and that was it. And it was freezing. And one of the guys who was my pal at the time was Stevie Boy, so it was him and his pal who were training. And obviously Stevie was like a natural, he was just flying about the place. And then my other pal was just like me in the first go. It was cool. And I really wish I could remember enough to know who the trainer was back then, because I can't remember. And obviously it's since moved to Govan, and then it became Source. So I feel like that was a wee path that it was like, just like wrestling already, because I was when that happened, and I was still like, no, I'm not getting into this.
Just all these like subtle ideas all the way through your life, like this is what you should get into. You're just like, nah, I don't like it.
I'm just going to play bass. I'm going to be a rock star when I'm older.
I can't even remember the trainer when I was there. I don't even think it had a real name. It was just like wrestling school. Like, if you've ever been to the SWA, this is the wrestling school that these guys train at. But it was like such a weird, like you says, you walk in to try and explain it to somebody, there was nothing, and it was like a ring, and it wasn't even like a full ring. It was like a ring, mats, and nothing else. It was like you could not get any more people in that, or
a meter's space on each side of the ring, and then the other two sides of the ring were against the wall.
And if you were to go on the top rope, you would need to like crouch down and stuff like that. In the ring, you could be like the top ropes were nearly at the ceiling and things like that, which was just, it was weird, but it was a cool place. I loved training there. It was so cold and disgusting and like in the middle of nowhere, which I love training in. But seeing Scottish wrestling now, like seeing the Source stuff, the ICW stuff, how clean the training places look and how like professional it is, and you're like, it's came such a long way. Like, if I was a 13-year-old coming to this, I'd feel like, well, I'm going to be in WWE soon.
This is what we do.
It's like, if you remember, like when you walked into it was like just a bunch of like scary looking guys like staring at the new person coming in. It was like fresh meat. Like, like what was this new person coming in, and there was like nothing. But when you go to now, obviously it looks cool. It's nice and clean. It's professional. They've got money involved in it and things like that. So it's like,
yeah.
At least it looks a little bit better. So obviously you started training and stuff like that. What was your first feeling, like, kind of stepping into that training, walking in there to actually participate in wrestling, like participate in a wrestling class? What was it like? Did you shit yourself the first time you done it, or were you like, oh, this is actually...
So I'm sure you're aware of the famous deck of cards workouts. I dodged that, and I was so happy, because everyone was like, oh, what would be cards? How are you going to hold up? It's like, I'm not going to. I am not fit. I have never, ever even stepped in a gym or anything. I really underestimated it. I thought I was going to go in and just kind of hit some people and then leave. I didn't realise I'd have to actually exercise. But I think it was Lewis Girvin that took me on in our first class, and we didn't do cards. I think we just done like some kind of jogging on the spot and up and down, kind of side to side kind of jumps and like sprawls and stuff like that. And it wasn't terrible. The main thing for me was I never ever grasped how to tuck my head, ever. So if I was doing like a forward roll, I'd be like, I'd do a backward roll. If I could get my arse over my head, that's for starters. It would just be like, ow. I think the first proper move I done was a suplex, and I was always just pure, yes, I can do a suplex. I'm going to go back next week and do a suplex. And I was just like, that's me, got my move. But I think it was the first time I'd done a sunset flip, and I didn't tuck my head, and I went over, and I remember just hearing and feeling the crunch from the base of my neck straight up into my head, and I just got up like that was one of the worst things I've ever experienced. And I think from then I kind of realised like this isn't fun. this is not meant to be fun, but it is fun. I was just a wee bit. I'm already like in life a bit of a liability. I'm very clumsy. I'm sure you can feel me.
I can totally relate with that. That's why I can't wrestle anymore since I broke my neck. But I am the clumsiest person you could ever meet. Like I'm the person that if you go to a bar and if there's a round of drinks, somebody comes with me to give me just my drink, and then they take the other drinks because I'll drop them. Like, and I'll still like shake and coming over to the table and stuff like that. I think it's you're either born clumsy or you're not, and I was born clumsy. But I get what you're saying with it's fun, like being wrestling, doing wrestling, and the other kind of stuff is really, really fun. But you need to take it serious as well because you will hurt yourself. Like I remember getting clotheslined, and it was like my first match or second match, and I was like, that way when you get rocked a little bit, your brain just switches off for a couple of seconds. I remember being outside the ring, and I was like, how the France did I get out here? And then the guy's like, get back in.
Some of the moves, like I've worked with a few people. I was training for 4 years before I debuted, and the first time that a forearm doesn't connect with where it's supposed to, and you just feel a big clock on the jaw, it's like, right, so that's how that feels. But yeah, like there's been a few kind of stupid things I've done. Like I was doing a black hole slam, but I was like, the way I was doing it is I would go down with the person and land like face down. But after a few tries, the person I was doing it to had their elbow up in a bit of a weird place, and it caught like my head behind my ear, and I was in so much pain, and I just thought, at the very, very worst, I'll maybe have like a minor concussion because I was a mess. And I ended up the next day, I woke up and I got out of bed and I just kind of went. And it turns out I had like labyrinthitis for the next 6 weeks because it shook me so much, and I had to stay off work for 6 weeks. I couldn't train, I couldn't do anything because I couldn't even stand up. I had like no equilibrium. And it's when we were able, no, it was before lockdown. Just before lockdown, I was like, right, I'm getting this black hole slam down, and I done it to my pal, and I done it again, but she got me. It's like my pal's like, she's a wee thing. She's basically like the opposite of me. She's like 4'11", and she's just this tiny, tiny wee girl. So it's brilliant getting to fling her about. It just makes you feel like just makes you feel hench. But as I slammed her down, her elbow clocked the back of my head. But it was like, instead of it like skimming me this time, it like proper jabbed me. And we were being filmed for a documentary at the time, so it got caught on camera, embarrassingly enough. And I remember just collapsing and rolling to the side of the ring, and kind of not meaning to, because I'm harder than that, but greeting. I just started pure. I'm not crying because it hurts. I'm crying because because I'm just crying. I'm not meaning it. So I'm trying to kind of figure out how I can avoid that.
So I think it'll be like one little thing throughout the process that you just need to get into like it's obviously like I'm trying to not give stuff away. I still like keeping it like a magician's trick. Like I've not done it for years, and I'm the most forgetful person in the world. But I can still remember a few wee things. But like as I try and not get away, like if I watch something, people are like, "How did they do that?" And I'm not telling you that. Why did I get away?
You can just do stuff like that. Can you not?
But I think it'll be one thing throughout the process that you're just kind of like, might even just because of how small the person is. Like it could be, because I remember when I was doing wrestling training at 13, people would hate to work with me because I was like much smaller, and then when I got bigger, everybody wanted to work with me, and I was like, no, it's no fair. You turned me down when I was like totsy, and then now I get bigger, you want to work with me, get away. But I think it's such a cool process to like talk to somebody about wrestling as well. Like where do you see yourself to try to make it a full-time career, or do you want to like just keep it as like a pastime, or where do you see yourself kind of going in like that 10-year, 5-year period, whatever you want to call it?
I don't really know, man. I think if I'd started earlier, I would have had kind of much bigger aspirations. But my initial goal was, if I debut, I want to debut before I'm 30. Like, I need to do it. And then I turned 29 and I debuted, and I had a couple of matches, and then was like, right, the next one, I want to debut for Fierce Females before I'm 30. And I don't know, 30's just always been one of those, like, I need to date before that, because I just assumed that when I turned 30, the next day I would just be decrepit, apparently, which isn't the case, because I'm 30 now, absolutely fine, peak fitness, best time of my life. But I managed to get the debut for Fierce Females, which was by complete fluke on the night. And it was just because I was helping like do the ring and all that, and get all the gear upstairs and set up. And management from Fierce Females approached me, and they were like, somebody's not turned up, so you might have a slot to fill tonight. And I immediately was like, what? I've had 3 matches. Do you really think, am I here? And it was like, nah, it probably won't happen. It'll be fine. We'll figure it out. Don't worry. It's like, right, cool. I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that then, so I can continue just like not patting my chance essentially for the rest of the night. And I think we were in like the first or second match of the show, and I was sitting on the sides, and my trainer walked past me, and he just kind of looked at me, and he kind of turned to the side, and he just went, oh no. And I followed him, and he was like, I don't know how we're going to do this. It's like, do you want to be in security gear or whatever? I was like, I've got my gear. Like, of course I've got my gear. Always bring your gear. And I got like a pure fluke debut from Fierce Females that night. And it was supposed to be like November, just past 2020. That was the show that I was actually aiming for. So I couldn't believe that I got that debut, and then 2 days later I was in quarantine. I was in isolation for 2 weeks, and then we came in lockdown, and we're still here. So I can't remember how I got into this tangent. Yeah, so I kind of make small goals. Like, the way I think about it just now is there's a few companies that I'm booked for around Scotland that I didn't see happening in my first year or anything. And I'm like super excited just to work around Scotland just now. I really want to work with Discovery Wrestling, and now that Fierce Females is kind of been done and I've got bookings with Fierce Females, I can say I really, really, really want to debut with Pro Wrestling Eve. I've always been like a follower of them. I've went and trained at their school with the girls and stuff, and I loved it there. So I really want to debut for Pro Wrestling Eve. And then I don't know, I'll see where it takes me, but I kind of see me just wanting to work independent, to be honest. Don't get me wrong, if NXT UK knocked my door next week, I'd be like, first of all, if you get the right door, and secondly, why not? It'll be good. Yeah, if I could be a full-time wrestler, that would be awesome, but I'm 30. I know there's much talent out there, and they're absolutely killing it, and I don't know, I feel like I'm letting my age block me a wee bit.
Well, if you think about it, Diamond Dallas Page didn't start till he was 36, so you could be...
Diamond Dallas Page is a man. He doesn't have babies. I don't know. I don't know where... in 5 years.
No, but I'm 29 just now. I turned 30 in June, and literally my whole life is planned to like 30, and then it's like it just drops off a cliff. I'm now. If you say to me I'm turning 30 this year, I'm stressed. Like I don't turn 30 this year. I'm like, lockdown started, I was 28. I've turned 29 in lockdown, and I'm like, I'm still 28. I have not grown up. I've not been outside for like a year. Like, by outside, I mean like going to places like pubs and like real places. I'm like, I've no grew up yet. I'm still like a child. And then like my kids and stuff always like, I know you're 30, you're going to be old. And I'm like, you say that, I'll disown you, I'll leave. Like, don't call me 30. But
because they can't tell me I'm old.
the worst thing is, be talking to you guys is I can't wrestle anymore because of injuries and stuff like that. But I get the itch so bad, like talking to like the younger guys, yourself, the guys in ICW, people in AEW and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, I would love to just go back in and try it again, like try and do some training and stuff. But I know I can't because of my injuries. And I'm like, should I do like managerial stuff or something? And I'm like, no, I'll just stick to the podcast and just keep that itch going, because it makes me, if you've checked out the show, like I've done a podcast every day for like the past 22 days. That's how much I love wrestling. And the minute I start on it, that's me. Like I'm not a person that does anything like half measures. Like you put me in a race with Usain Bolt, I'm literally going to run as fast as I can until like my legs fall off. Like it's full on, and that's the reason why it's weird, because I'm clumsy, but I'm like that as well. So I'm competitive clumsy, which is like makes no sense. But it's cool to see that.
Totally get you. Yeah.
Well, that's what I am, because most people don't get it. They're like, how can you be clumsy and competitive? I'm like, it's a real thing. Like, I'm the most competitive person you'll ever meet, but I'm clumsy as shit. Like, I can't. You ask me to balance something, that's me gone. Like, walk in a straight line. No, but
I'll fall, but dude, I will get back up and I will catch up.
aye, pretty much. That's what I try and do. But normally it doesn't hurt. I normally fall and hurt myself. But it's so refreshing to hear people like, I know you want to stay independent and stuff like that as well. But it's cool, and I love how much women wrestling's grew on the independent scene as well. Like, when I was younger, and I love saying this to women wrestling, because I know everybody hates when I say it. It's like, I never took it serious at all. Like, it was just, I was that WWE person, and it was like the brand panties matches for so long. That was the point that I used to just skip over it, or just like leave the room, because I was like, I'm not really interested in this. But then now it's like this thing that I love watching. My favourite wrestler in the world is Rhea Ripley at the minute. Like, it's what I look forward to in the show. The women wrestling is so much better than the men's, in my opinion, at the minute. But back in the day, it's so weird to see how far it's came, and it must be cool being like a wrestler and seeing how far women's wrestling's came as well.
Oh, it's awesome, yeah. I think I can totally like relate. Like when I started getting into wrestling, I was just kind of the same attitude of, the women are just here for this and for that, and unfortunately it's just kind of eye candy. And I used to hate it when people would call them like piss break matches. I just thought it was like so insulting, man, because half of these women can kick the utter crap out of you. Like, man, if they don't ow just for insulting the lady. But I didn't mean to say the ladies so seductively there. I don't know why that came out. The lady.
I think it was that time period as well. Like, it was really it wasn't like toilet break. I know when you say that it sounds so bad, but it was like embarrassing to watch, because it was like, you knew these women were really good at wrestling. Like, the one that always comes to my mind, the Survivor Series 2002, Trish Stratus versus Victoria, was just insane. It's a hardcore match, but like, that was like one out of like a bunch of brand panties matches. It was just like a kind of joke at that point, but then when you look at it now, it's like that's what I stay for. I normally go to the toilet if somebody's like, oh, I think there's a women's match for NXT. That's what I look forward to, just women's wrestling at this point.
They're absolutely killing it, man. It's awesome. It's so cool.
Yeah, it is. It's cool to see the independent scene. Like ICW Bard did like a women's cage match as well, and it was probably one of the better ones on the show. And it's just insane to be like how far it's came from like when we were younger, which was like really nobody. Like Trish Stratus stoning around was pretty much the only women wrestler, and then now you can name a ton of like women wrestlers that are just really, really good, that are better than the men, like no even in the same league, which, like I said, it must be cool to kind of look at it and be like, well, women can actually wrestle, and it will not just like that toilet break match were actually like a good part of the show.
Yeah, like even from like my own personal experiences, like I used to work in a gym in Glasgow, and my pals would always like wind me up a wee bit, but also be like, "Oh, it's really cool that you're training." But when some of the gym members, like I was a lifeguard, so I worked on the poolside. Nearly said I lived on the poolside. I might as well have. I worked on the poolside, and some of the members would be like, "Are you the lassie that's doing the wrestling?" Like, "Aye, that's me, man." Like, is it not a bit? Is it not a bit dodgy? Like, what do you mean? It's like, why are you telling people you're doing that? Like, what do you think I'm doing, man? And some people would genuinely be pure, but it's softcore porn you're doing, innit? Like, no, dude, I'm wrestling. I'm doing like what like John Cena does. Like, oh, but you're doing it. Are you doing it in like the mud and that? It's like, no, I'm doing it in a wrestling ring, mate. It's like, are you wearing like gear? It's like, yes, I am clothed. And now people are like, I feel like people's like switch kind of flipped on it, and they can look at women like Rhea Ripley and like Asuka and Io Shirai and stuff, and they can be like, man, these are actually like wrestling and being very good at stuff. And yeah, like even in terms of like ICW, I'm not shy to say I held a grudge against ICW for quite some time due to their women's division, and it was purely just because, like, don't get me wrong, the women who have been in ICW were absolutely amazing, but there was only like three of them, and I kind of felt like, guys, we can do better than this. Like, oh, I didn't mean me. I was just a trainee. I was just a bit of a bit of a. I was just kind of critiquing, I guess. It's like
Right.
you've got like Emily Hayden, who obviously is now there, and you've got Molly Spartan, who is there too now. And like, I would love to see like Ashley Vega in ICW and stuff. And I just kind of thought, can we not do a wee bit, get a bit more women in the locker room? And now they are, and it's good. Like, it's good for the women that are there in that, which is cool. And I really do need to catch up in that match, the Bard match, because I have heard it was tits. So where, and I have.
It definitely is really good. I had Molly on like just before she was on when that was going out that night, so it was pretty cool to speak to her and then go watch her in the ring, which was really
Yeah.
weird and kind of surreal because it was like she was talking about how she remembers, like I was saying, like she said she was at Walkabout and then everybody was just going away when it was like the women's match was on. Then she's like, now that people are staying for it, which is, I think, it's insane. It's so weird how culture can change like in a really quickly, and that's one thing I like about wrestling is they try and mimic good parts of culture, and sometimes they try and do it the wrong way, but that can be everybody's kind of opinion. So moving to the kind of negative part of the show, that's the only negative part that we have. What's something that you don't like about today's wrestling community, world, whatever you want to call it? What's something that you don't like about today's wrestling?
Okay. It's not exactly wrestling. Um, People might fight me on this because I'm going to be talking about a lot of people's favourites. But The Undertaker, his situation just now is really kind of annoying me. And I think it's because this time a year ago, I was like, I love that The Undertaker is just, he is not dropping the gimmick. He's the Undertaker for life. He's not, oh, what's his second name? I call him Mark McCool because I'm a bit of a dick. Mark Calloway.
Calvin.
Call him Mark McCool. And now since uh, since like the Boneyard match and stuff, like, I don't get me wrong, man, he done that kind of so many episodes documentary, and I thought it was awesome. I thought it was really, really cool, and it was really well done. But some of the interviews he's been doing recently, and then kind of teasing coming back and then not teasing, I'm just a bit like, man, can we just keep the Undertaker alive without breaking the kayfabe on it? It's the one guy that I want us to keep the illusion of, because it was so well done for so long. And now that, like, what was it, like 30 years or something? Like, now that that's up, it's like, why did you need to? Why did you need to? Like, it was fine the way it was, and I just kind of, I didn't want to see Mark. I wanted to see Big Takesy, and like, I just didn't want to say that's all, and it's just something I've got a bit of a personal gripe with. That's all.
Honestly, I honestly don't. I don't get why he let the character slip. I get, obviously it's better to make money to obviously open the curtain a little bit for his brand kind of moving forward, but you could have literally just stayed the Undertaker forever. It would have
Yeah.
It would have been cool. It would have been cool to go out like that. And I love how everybody started moaning at him when he made his comment on the Joe Rogan show, which was like, "Oh, today's locker room's soft," and it's like, I can kind of see what he's talking about. Like, you could say they're softer than, well, they would be softer than people in like the 70s and 80s walking around and wrestling back then.
I understand. I'm not going to lie. It annoyed me, but I get annoyed over too much stuff at the moment. Like I'm a wee bit of a hothead just now. I don't know why. But yeah, like of course it's like a different generation, and like when he was in the locker room 30 years ago, men would be men, and there would be etiquette and all this kind of stuff. And I get that, and I totally get that he carries on that mindset, and that was his time and stuff. But things are a bit different now, and I don't think it's a bad thing that has kind of eased down a bit. There's obviously when you go out, like we were always trained, and you'll know this as well, like as soon as you enter a locker room you shake everybody's hand, and I get that, and I'll do that, but at the same time I'm like, oh, I hate doing this. It's so nerve-wracking, and I've got like crippling social anxiety. Can you tell by how much I'm like talking completely fine? So if I'm going up to shake someone's hand, I'm like, are they going to know that I'm a wrestler? Are they going to think I'm just one of the lassies here? Are they going to think I'm like a girlfriend of somebody's? Am I just here to do the ring? Are they going to laugh at me? Are they going to shake my hand? Are they not going to shake my hand? Am I going to do something wrong or say something wrong and get a bad rap? Honestly. And then I need to move on to the next person, and it happens all over again. But I don't know, man. I kind of feel like if things are a bit more relaxed now, like I said, I've been in 2 locker rooms. I've had 4 matches, so I've been in 2 locker rooms which I know and I'm familiar with, and I call home already. But when I go to another one, I don't really know what to expect. And if it is a bit like everyone's coming in and having a laugh and stuff, it will make me feel so much more at ease rather than going in and everybody's just being all that and just being all like guard up and stuff, I guess. Like, I don't know. But at the same time, I know that he's always been like locker room leader and stuff, but times have changed, man. Like times do change, and I hate saying like I'm talking myself out of my voice. This is terrible. I hate saying it's like a generation gap because that doesn't fly all the time, but it is. It's totally different. Imagine Roddy Piper was here now, and he went into like if he came into our locker room and there's people like playing games, and then some people are sitting with their phones and some people are watching the matches downstairs and other people are sitting talking. Like it'd be like, what's going on? Because I always thought if you're in the back and you've got a telly, you're watching everyone's matches. And I didn't realise it was that lax. But I was brought up. I always say brought up, by the way. When I say when I was taught things in wrestling or taught etiquette, I say that I was brought up and I had a good upbringing. I was kind of brought up by, obviously, I'll just, like, Mikey Whiplash was my trainer for 4 years, and he taught us everything in and out of the ring, in the back, and everything. So he's obviously been in a lot of locker rooms, and he's been around for a long time. So etiquette and respect and stuff is obviously very important to him, and it rubbed off on all of us and all the source guys. So when I walk into a locker room and people are watching matches on a TV and other people are on their phones, on their Facebook and stuff, I'm a wee bit like, can you just go and watch some matches?
my first experience ever remember going. So I'm no a social anxious person. Like I'm the most chill person you ever meet. Like I'll be the person who'll just be sitting, like chilling. Like I like to just chill out. I like to relax. That's like my thing. Like if you come up and talk to me, I'm like the friendliest person ever. But if you do, like if I was just sitting, you'd be like, he looks so angry. But like it's just the way I'm just so comfy. But I remember the first time walking into this locker room, this guy became my best friend until he passed away. But I mean, we were inseparable for like years, and he was about 6'9", 6'10". He was just touching 7 feet. He was so tall, right? And he was from Africa, born in Russia. So he had this Russian accent, but he was like so dark and he was jacked. I remember walked in and I was like, what the hell is this guy? And he just looked at me and he just laughed. And he was like, "You're so small," and I was like, "You're so big," and then he was like, "Do I do something? You want to be like a manager or something like that?" I think it'd be pretty fun. And we just went from there. It was like we were best friends ever since. But that's like you're saying, the etiquette of wrestling. You just need to walk in and just be yourself, relax in the back, and obviously go up, shake people's hands, introduce yourself. And so I think the most scariest part of wrestling is what you're going to do at the back. You don't want to fumble your words. You don't want to like make a tit of yourself in front of the wrong person. The ring's obviously important, but it's that kind of back area stuff that's still very important. But like you say, Undertaker stuff is just kind of like it does seem like it is. All right, you're just from like a total different generation. But you think back then there was like drugs, steroids, guns, like just everything in the back of the like back in the 90s, 80s. You would think like
It's absolutely disgraceful. It's disgraceful. No guns, no knives, no drugs. Well, but not in my life. It's not really happening.
I know it sounds like it's obviously more relaxed now, but back then it would have been probably more fun to be a fly in the wall to sit and watch like these guys like just people would know what we're talking about.
Really.
So going to the positive side is, what's something that you love about today's wrestling world community? What's something that you love about it?
I really like that women are getting more of a platform and stuff. We're seeing more women being brought into companies rather than going to a show and it's like so many men's matches and then one women's match. Like, we're seeing a lot more shows where there's more than that now, and where people aren't seeing women coming in and just kind of leaving for 5 minutes to go to the tuck shop, and like they're staying because they know it's going to be really good, man. I pure love characters and stuff. I do. Like when like my boyfriend is like he is mad for wrestling. Like, if you were to say to him, what was the third match in WrestleMania 7, he would be able to tell me, and he'd be able to tell me what the music was for that year as well, and what the headline match was, and what he can tell me anything. It's actually quite scary because I can't even remember sometimes why I've walked into a room, like, never mind like who headlined WrestleMania 30 years ago. But I kind of like now that we don't feel like we're dependent on characters and gimmicks so much. And I feel like I'm not just saying that because I am completely gimmickless. I go out and I'm just me with a different name and a wee bit more balls about me. That's kind of how it is at the moment. But I kind of like that we don't need to rely on that. We're just purely relying on how good wrestling is. But then you can flip the coin a bit. And do you watch New Japan? Is that a silly question?
No, I still watch it. Aye.
So when you watch New Japan, obviously it's treated like so much more of a sport over there, and it's so refreshing and it's so cool. But obviously you still get your characters, but it's more about this wrestling is really, really good, and you've got your tournaments, and it's treated so much more serious than wrestling can be here. But then you've got guys like Yano who come out and they are so silly, and it's just the comparison between him and like Tanahashi and stuff like that. It's like he's coming out and having a pure laugh, and he's like taping up people to like guardrails and stuff just to win matches. And I think he pure stands out to me in New Japan because he is like a big daft character, and I feel like there's not a lot of them over there. But then when you come here, and there's a lot of like especially like in Scotland just now, there's a lot of new guys coming through who have got their characters and they've got their gimmicks and their look, and they're awesome. Like, a lot of the guys coming out of Joe Hendry school right now have got so much character about them that I'm not in the slightest bit jealous, honestly. And I pure can't wait to see where they're going. But I kind of like that we're getting a bit more of that as well, because there hasn't been in a while. Yeah. I feel like I've just completely contradicted myself, but I know what I mean.
I think wrestling's gone through like a transition period just now. Like, if everything's becoming more global, more open, you can watch New Japan a lot more easier. For me, I've got a YouTube wrestling show. I can review wrestling whenever I want. There's one on every single day. There's a show that I can just, if I want to go, this one will get good views, I can just make a review on it. But it's still going through that transition period between that kind of older time to the modern time. Like, it's in a dip just now, but it's going to come back. Like, it's wrestling goes with the culture. It takes its time, and if you look at it just now, you're like the bigger companies, there's nothing really to kind of grasp onto, but you can tell it's like that. If you ever went back and watched like 1993 WWF, it's so bad, and it's like literally you watch it and you're like, I do a watch along for Raw 1993. I'm watching them every week, and I don't know why I do it. It's so depressing, but it's like we're in the same period just now with better workers, and it's just like we're waiting for it to come back up. I think COVID's put a little bit of a stent in it, but it's taking its time. And I love how everybody's like, oh, wrestling's fallen, like I've just said it. But in Scotland, it feels like everybody's watching wrestling just now. And then if you look at how much money WWE's making, it's like, it's unbelievable. Like, there must be people watching it, or people secretly watching it. It just has to get mainstream again. And I think there's a bunch of people that make a lot more money than I'll ever make that are trying to come up with the idea of how we can get it, that attitude era, but in the modern era, if that makes sense.
I know what you mean, yeah. Like, because everyone always, like, I don't know if it's still a thing now, but I remember when I started watching, John Cena was like the man, and then you'd have like CM Punk, then CM Punk left, and everyone would just be pure, we need to make this over 18 again, we need the Attitude Era back, we need this back. It's like, why can't we just adjust the products now to be kind of what everyone wants? Because everyone, obviously, a lot of people want like Wayne's to be away from it. They don't want kids going to the shows and stuff because they want it to be a bit edgier. And it's like, realistically, that's not going to happen, man, because that is so much money gone. Like, you need to view it as a business rather than just, oh, if that's what people are going to like better, we'll just do that. It's like, well, it's not that easy. Like, we can't just have the Attitude Era back. Like, they're trying, because obviously with the Fiend and stuff like that, they're doing things that are a wee bit more edgy. What I want to see in WWE, which I don't think I'll get to see, is like intergender matches. Like, because I think seeing Rhea Ripley versus Seth Rollins would be amazing. I think seeing Nia Jax take on like Randy Orton would be so cool. And it's purely just because it's wrestling. Like, see if someone says, "Aye, but it's not realistic, a man and a woman fighting against each other." Like, why is that? Like, because men are just genetically stronger. It's like, well, I mean, I'd be pure willing to just like, right, cool, why don't we just prove that right now? Because I'm strong, man. I will I'll fight for everyone just to show you that women should be wrestling men in WWE.
This is something that me and
but
Molly Spartan spoke about as well. Like, why do they don't do intergender matches? Like, if you think about it, you had China going up against the men, and it was every girl growing up at that time like China, because obviously China was different because the way she looked like mega jacked. Do you know what I'm talking about? But like, she's like gone against the men. Everybody liked her because she was doing that. Plus, I do like martial arts. Well, I did do martial arts training with people like Joanne Calderwood that's in the UFC. Like, she's much smaller than me, and I can 100% guarantee that she could layer anybody in wrestling at this point. Plus, just go into the city centre in Glasgow and the weekend, you'll see like women fighting men all the time. Like, it's a thing. I don't get why it's
that's
no.
not determined either. So,
But plus, it's no, like, obviously you watch wrestling for entertainment purposes. You're not going to sit and go, okay, I'm going to, all right, he's just power bombed that swimming. I'm going to go do it to my missus. You're not going to do that. You're going to like you use logic. Obviously, there is people that fail to use logic, but those type of people just fail to do that on a daily basis. Anyway, I would love to see people like Rhea Ripley go against Randy Orton, Nia Jax, because we were trying to do it when she came into the men's Royal Rumble, but people kind of didn't like it, which I don't understand, because it's like, for me, I would just love to see there be a world championship. It doesn't need to be men's, women's. It could just be like, this is the face of the show. Do you know what I mean? Like, imagine Charlotte Flair was the best wrestler in the world across men and women. She's just the best wrestler in the world. But obviously, you get so many people that would just be like, oh no, never. Can you have a man hit a woman? And it's like, only like 10 years ago we were doing it. Calm down.
I know, like, and I kind of feel like it's different. It's different in WWE now because you've got kids watching, and a lot of people are going to be like, "Oh, I don't want my child seeing like a man hitting a woman because they might get the wrong idea." Like, well, to a degree, I completely understand that. You don't want your kids thinking like it's okay to go and hit a woman, but like, I mean, I could hit a guy, and that's totally cool, man. Like Nia Jax can come into the Royal Rumble and start smoking dudes with her fists, and that's okay because it's not a guy hitting a woman. I kind of feel like that mentality needs to stop. You shouldn't be like teaching your kids like you shouldn't hit a lady. You should be teaching your kids don't hit people. It's purely as simple as that. And obviously, kids are going in and wrestling other kids on like their playgrounds and stuff like that. Like obviously that's going to happen because kids are easily influenced. But I don't know. Like I feel like if people are so afraid of their children seeing like intergender matches, then just educate them along the way with it. The same way as you would tell them like you need to stop power bombing your brother into that bed because I'm not buying a new one. Like don't power bomb your sister because I'm not buying a new bed. Like just make it kind of on the same level. And I kind of feel like when I try and talk about stuff like this, if anyone else is hearing me, they'll probably be like, what is she actually talking about? That's ridiculous. But again, I understand what I mean. I'm just not very good at articulating it.
No, I totally. I'm the exact same. Like when you try and talk about this as well, people will be like, "Oh, you just hate feminism, or you're just like a sexist." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I'm saying like women should be like they should be in with it. Well, like my daughter, she drop kicked my son the other day, and it was great. It was like good, like so she's younger, much smaller, and it was like good height on it, perfect. It was like
I love taking the drop kick and not like the fact that you're. That's
it was deserved. It was deserved. But I was like, so that's a thing that in my house we have quite. It's no strict. It's like you need to make a bed in the morning. I've done that since I was like 2. I like martial arts. I do that yoga in the morning and stuff like that. And it's that kind of wrestling school feeling. So it's like cool. If everybody's just up for it. Like if you want to train, you want to do some stuff, you can. But it doesn't matter. Like if you're a boy, you're a girl. Like she's much stronger than him. She's younger than him, but she can like pick him up. She can still do squats, walk with him, and he's the weakest person ever. And I'm like, you just need like you can't say like a woman isn't as strong as like a man. People can say genetics, whatever, but I've been hot with some women in like MMA training, and it has rocked me. We're like holding the pads, and it's came back in my head, and I'm like, what's happened just there? But no, I think it's in this day and age, like you say, like Molly Spartan said as well. Like, can we not just be people? Like, just I think it's a very Scottish thing as well. Like, can it not just be everybody just kind of just go at it? Like, no, go at it. That's what I mean. I always try to explain it. You sound so bad. It's like I don't make that. Domestic violence, anything like that. No, it's no good. Don't ever do it. It's terrible. But But in wrestling, it can work. In the form of entertainment, it can work.
What you're getting at, like, but see if you're like, again, let's just take Glasgow in for an example. If you're out in Glasgow on a night out, and if I'm out and some guy, and it's happened, like, look at me, man, I'm a cat house goer. Like, I'm going to get ripped in the street, and I still do, and it's not fair because I thought I'd grown out of it, but that's a story for another day. But if a guy starts like shit talking me in the street, I'll be like, mate, what? And it will go somewhere. Like I've been in a few fights. Like I've been in fights in the catty and I've been fights outside the catty. Not one of these has been with a bird. They've always been with guys, and they've never come out on top. So obviously, it seems to be only selective. Like if it's going to be like, oh, don't hit a woman. And I feel like a lot of guys also kind of like they've started kind of using this whole equality thing as an excuse. Like, oh well, if I can't hit a woman, but we're supposed to be equal, so if she says something to me, I can say something back and hit her back. It's like, stop using that as an excuse just to batter people. It's not what it's there for. I just want to be able to go to a wrestling match and be told the next match is this rather than the next match is a women's match. It's like, no, it's still a wrestling match. Like 3 out of my 4 matches technically have been with guys, and that's only because one other bird was in it as a tag member, and I seem to forget that. And see, when back to the lifeguarding, if I told people like, oh, I wrestle guys because there's only two women in my school, be like, what are you wrestling guys for? Why are they allowed to do that? It's like, I mean, 2 minutes ago, man, you were telling me this is fake and that it's predetermined, and now I'm getting battered by guys for real. You're just totally being selective on what this means. Another tangent when I don't know where I'm going with it. Sorry, it's been very long.
Oh, it's fine. I do tangents all the time as well. But for me, like, when I'm watching wrestling, I don't see it as like women, men, like anything like that. It's just people in the ring wrestling. Like, I don't care if it's like a woman in the ring or don't care it's not the right thing. But it doesn't bother me. Like, if it's a good match, it's a good match. If it's shit, it's shit. I still call it out. Like, there's been times that I've called out Nia Jax for having a terrible match in the ring. I'm not a big fan, right? But I'm like, that wasn't very good. I didn't like that. But then people will be like, oh, but she's a woman. You need to let some slack go. And I'm like, why would I do that? Like, if it's the same standard for everybody, it's like saying, oh, I don't know, or the old saying from like back in the 50s, women can't drive. And you're like, well, you can't just say that. Like, everybody needs to just be on the same parallel. You can't just be like, because she's wrestling like this. Another thing I don't like is always seems to be like bigger women. So like the fuller bodied, try to say it nicer. I don't know how I would say it.
It's okay.
I know a lot of fuller bodied women, and I don't want to offend anybody that listens to this, but it's like, why is it always okay for them to wrestle against the men, and then like people like the Rhea Ripley, Io Shirai and stuff like that, you're like, I know them, and it's like, it doesn't make sense that you can have Nia Jax but no Charlotte Flair. I don't understand that either, which is annoying.
Like, I don't get it. Like, if my pal is in a match with somebody and he has a bad match, like, if he gets ripped for it, that's fair, especially if you nearly hurt someone. If I'm in a bad match and I nearly hurt someone, I expect the same treatment. I don't want it to be like, oh, well, I mean, like, just do this next time, maybe do that. It's like, no, man, I want you to call me out and I want you to make me cry because I need to learn. Like, you're not going to teach us differently because I'm a girl and he's a boy. Like treat me exactly the same. And that's what I absolutely love about Source. It's just like, you walk in and it's just everybody is just totally equal. Like, if one of the guys over there will be getting ripped for something, and then if I do something stupid, I'll be getting ripped for it. Like, Taylor Veit, I love Taylor Veit, and I said his name wrong on a podcast last year. Haven't heard the end of it, man, and I probably never will. Every time we bring up his name, it's like, hi, but is it that your name or is that your name? Why don't we just ask Brodie? Like, why don't you, like, thanks, guys, because they pure know that they can take the piss out of us, and we're totally all right with it. And yeah, like, the whole kind of bigger women can fight men because they're bigger and stronger is one of those things that is kind of chucked about a bit, hence Nia Jax, like, going into the men's rumble. But going back to my pal I was talking about, she is 4'11". She weighs about half of me. I'm about 220 pounds. Like, I'm a big bitch. She is not. She is a tiny little girl, but I've wrestled her and she is a vicious person. Trying not to call her names. She's super vicious, man, and she's really, really good. And I can't wait to see her take on like a big dude, because she will run rings around him and she'll be able to do things that he won't because she's so tiny and she can just fling herself about. Like, I just think it needs to stop. There needs to stop being an asterisk above that, like, oh, men versus women. But the women need to be built like this, and they need to be a bit more tough. It's like, no, it should just be women underlined versus men underlined. There should be no but this, but that. Like, and the guys can't use that move and they can't use that move. It's like, no, man, just let us wrestle. Just let us, like, we're doing this for fun. No, I mean, well, I'm doing it for fun. Like two of my best matches have been with guys, and I loved them. And on my debut with Griffin, the first thing he said when I got into that ring was to go across the road to Aldi's to get some bread, get some cooked ham, and make him a sandwich. And he actually, like I think he was a bit like, can I say this? Like, yes, dude, say anything you want. Rag on me for being a woman. Rag on me for being fat. Do whatever you've got to do to get me rallied against you. Just do it. I don't care. Just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I care.
I think a lot of people forget, like, it's fine to like have fun. Like, it's like it's okay to have fun with stuff. Like, you don't need to be so, like, oh, obviously there's certain things you can't say, but it's like, oh, can I cross this line or can I do this? And it's like, just tell the person, like, if I'm going to go out there, can I say this? If they don't like it, then don't do it. If they do, let them do it. It's just everybody's so worried about offending somebody, which I think is the other thing that's hurting wrestling at the minute as well. Everybody's trying not to offend, like, everybody, which is, wrestling sometimes can be offensive. That's what made the Attitude Era kind of cool. No, the 18 plus stuff, like the or sexism or anything like that. Like, just like the Val Venus getting his penis chopped off, Mae Young getting buffed to a hand. Do I mean, like, that kind of stuff pushed the envelope, which was just so awkward. But heading into the final part of the kind of show is 2 questions that I sent you over, and a question that we always keep a secret, which I'm guessing you probably would have watched on one of the shows. But the first one is, who's your favourite wrestler of all time?
My favourite wrestler is Kevin Owens / Steen. I just think he's awesome. He's a big guy who can wrestle like he is any size, and like if you watched back some of his stuff before he joined WWE, like even in his matches and stuff, he's so quick-witted, and he just kind of has everything for me. Like, he's a damn good athlete, he's a damn good wrestler, a great character, and he can honestly give him a mic and he will send Punk home with a note. Like, he's so good, and I'd never get bored of him, and I am so excited to see him take on Sami Zayn. It is unreal. I am so excited.
No, I can't wait for that one either as well. I remember seeing Kevin Steen at that time back in a promotion called 1PW. It was a UK promotion that ended up buying, like, so they got in people like Christian Cage, Abyss, Steve Carino, just every big name you could think of that was independent were there. And Steen was there as well, and he was going against a wrestler I really like called Ulf Herman. And I just remember seeing him, and I was like, who's this guy? And then watched his match, and I was like, this guy's a guy I can get into, and I've followed him since then, which was like 2006 or something, showing my age. But the other one is, what's your favourite event of all time? What's an event you can be like, this one you need to watch because it's good?
So I don't really have a favourite event. I've got one that sticks out in my mind because I have the most disgraceful memory in the world. It's kind of concerning sometimes. But I can't even remember the name of the... No, that's stupid, you can. It was ICW in the SEC. Not the Hydro, but the SEC. And it was one of the Fear and Loathings. And I just remember it being so damn good. And if you ever watch it back in the front row, Can't Miss Me, front and centre, full Mikey Whiplash face paint. I'm not embarrassed. Like, and I just remember it being so cool because it was more than just like how good the wrestling was and the kind of star power we had, because Mick Foley and that were there. It was so much more than that. It was like, this many years ago, I was in Maryhill Community Halls watching this, and it was great. And now it's in the SEC, and it's not even just in the SEC. I'm pretty sure it like sold out the SEC, and there's just a picture, there's like an image, and I'm pretty sure it's on like the entrance video to ICW, when you just see like the ring in the middle with a big screen and the massive crowd, and it's just like, that is just mental. And I just remember at the time knowing how big a deal it was, and I remember it being like kind of not my last show, because I kind of fell away from ICW for a wee while. But it was one that I was so excited for, enough obviously to paint my full face. And we went to the SEC at like 12 o'clock or something and met a bunch of people. And we were there for hours and hours and hours, because it was just a pure event. But yeah, like I've got like wee snippets of things that stick in my mind and stuff, like my favourite moments in wrestling. But I think if I was to watch any show back or go to one, I think it would be that again, because it was just so good, and the crowd were just pure up for it. And I feel like after that, like the ICW crowd started kind of evolving and changing a little bit, and I think that's why I kind of stepped back a bit, because I didn't really feel as welcome anymore and as I don't want to use the word safe, but there was just a lot of madgings going that were just fighting with people in the crowd. And like, obviously, we know my history of fighting with guys in and out of the cat house, so obviously I was involved in that from time to time as well. But yeah, like the only time I didn't really start going back to ICW because I became like crew member for a while. But yeah, just to revert right back and stop myself from talking anymore, ICW and the SEC.
No, I remember ICW being in Maryhill, but it was like 2007, 8 maybe, and it was like 10 people were in the audience or something, and it was like me and my friend were like, well, obviously two of them there, and it was like people were just like coughing, and these guys are like putting on great matches, and I was like, this is so awkward to like watch, but it was so good. It was such a good show, and then seeing how far Love came is really good. But I get what you mean. Like I feel like the crowd for a bit, it got too mainstream. You just got like everybody, like people that I know that obviously it's cool to get more eyes back on wrestling and stuff like that as well. But people that I know that don't even like wrestling, that when I was in school used to like try and slag me and bully me and stuff for wrestling, and I used to be like, why are you going to this show? Like you clearly don't like it. Like you used to, like, or maybe they did if they could have slagged me for it. But I was like, it's so weird, like how people just kind of do what the cool thing is. Like a lot of people at the minute stay up and to watch UFC and stuff like that. And I'm like, these people that have never ever watched this. Like when I used to tell you how cool this was back in the day with like George St. Pierre, Chuck Liddell, and stuff like that, and they'd be like, nah, it's just stupid guys. It's like wrestling, but it's fake. And I was like, no. And then now they'll be like, oh, I'm up watching it at 2 a.m. Shut up, just stop it.
The exact same, man. I was at my show once, and I think I was walking to the bar, and I came back, and there was 3 guys from my high school standing there. I was like, what? Why are you here? And I left like where I used to live so that I never bumped into people from my high school ever again. And I'm bumping into them at wrestling shows, and they're looking at me as if, what are you doing here? And I'm looking at them as if, bitch, what are you doing here? This is my turf. This is my play, and you're here. But you could always kind of tell who was there because they heard that there was this mad wrestling promotion, and it was always pure, like, it was a big drinking event. It was always a big drinking event, man. And like, you could kind of start telling people who were a wee bit kind of out of place a bit, because if the wrestling spilled into the crowd, they'd just be pure, oh, well, I'm not moving. Like, they can't touch me. If they do it to me, they're getting into troubles. Like, that's not the case, man, at all. I'd make some space.
I remember going to ICW show. I can't remember what it was. It wasn't in the garage because I hate the garage. I can't remember what it was, and I just remember being steaming. Like it was just always like one of those like. And I remember going to the catty after it, and the cat house is like, it doesn't matter if nobody's ever been to it, you can literally go steaming and they'll allow you in. Like nobody really cares as long as you can make it up the stairs. Nobody really cares. But
like, no, he's not getting in.
But I just remember, then it changed. Like you said, it just became like, I don't know, like people there and like they're standing in the audience. It's like just literally move it away because this huge guy or this woman's going to go sliding into you and you're just going to get leathered with a chair or something. Just get out the way. Which I'm like, why would you even stand there anyway? I'm trying to protect myself enough. Like I said, I'm clumsy. I'm trying to get out because I know if I just stood there, I'd be the person getting hit.
Like, I think for me, the turning point of knowing that was there was a show in the ABC. I can't remember who was wrestling. Can't remember what date it was, what year it was. Nothing. I don't remember anything because it's an ICW event where we were all steaming. And I was always at. I wasn't like the front barrier guys, like who all had their individual, very specific spot in the line of where they were. But I was like round the corner a wee bit, still on the barrier. And I remember it was Bobby Roberts actually who was working crew at the time, and he was standing next to me and we were just kind of chatting away. And I think it was maybe like BT versus Renfrew, and BT whipped Renfrew into the barrier where I was, and he hit it with such force that I flew back onto my back onto the ground. And like, if you're a gig goer, you'll know if somebody hits the deck, you reach out and you bring them back up. But I stayed there because I got absolutely trampled by people trying to get to the front barrier. And I was like, what? This doesn't happen here. This is supposed to be like a collective. And I get back up and there was this guy and he was at the barrier, but all night had been like that, trying to get me out the way, and I was just like, mate, see if your elbow comes into contact with me again, my elbow will contact your face. Honestly, I was just pure no having it. It was irking me. So he was there, and I got up and I was like, mate, I was standing there. It's like, well, you left. It's like, I did not leave by my own volition, mate. I got launched back. So can I please get back to where I was? Because you're like really tall. And if he hadn't been annoying me all night, I pure would have just like not brass necked it at all. I'd have been like, on you go. And Bobby Roberts turned down pure, you're in her space. He's like, it's nobody's space. She left. He was like, go out her space. And it was really funny because he like really gingerly just kind of left. But yeah, like besides that being hilarious because that guy was pure readied, like I think it was just kind of that moment where you realise like we're all not here for each other anymore. It's a different crowd, and it kind of sucked knowing that.
Aye, I think I totally get. I don't understand why tall people always need to go at the front. Like I'm not the tallest person, but it's like just or like if you go to a concert and the O2 Academy or the ABC and stuff like that, is the worst for it is like when they just start like older people just kind of like slowly start nudging you. And you're like, get off! Why are you nudging me? Like just we're all facing the same thing. Just like, but finishing off the final question we always ask everybody, and I'll give you my example is. So the question is, if you can replace yourself or add yourself to any match in history, what would it be? So for me, I'd replace Owen Hart against Bret Hart, SummerSlam 94, that blue steel cage. If you've never seen that, go watch that because that's one of the greatest matches of all time.
So I remembered you were going to ask a difficult question, and I remembered it completely differently. So I don't have an answer to that. And I don't know. If I could make up a match, that would be lovely. Because that's
make up a match. Do what you want. It's just I make up a match. That'll be even. That'll be cool. It'll be different.
I would really like to be. I think it would be nice for me because in not being insulting to the other women involved, I'd be little, so I can maybe get chucked about a wee bit, and it would be nice to be on the receiving end of that for once. But I think it would be cool to be in like a cage match with Awesome Kong in China. I think that'd be so cool. And if I could, I would just I would do a Spider-Man. I would just climb up and kind of watch from the corner, just like, this is amazing. But I think that'd be cool. Other than getting absolutely rattled by two absolute powerhouses. But yeah, it'd be cool.
Well, you're the first person that's made up the match, so that's a first. So that's a first for every kind of podcast. I would get people to go check you out. I was watching your stuff on YouTube. It's really cool. Like you're doing cool stuff. You can see you're kind of definitely going to get into that women's niche within Scottish wrestling, European wrestling, which is huge at the minute. But where would you like people to go check you out? Where would you like them to go kind of find you?
At the moment, oh no, my phone's actually, this is my phone. At the moment, probably just Twitter, which I think is at Brodie.
It's in the description below anyway. So I've got your Twitter, Facebook, and I'll be sharing a few of your matches. So if you just, we'll end the podcast there. If you wait there, I'll tell you when this is kind of going to go up and stuff like that after it.